After serving 18 years in prison for a crime that he did not commit, all that Ichiban Kusugi wants is a fresh Punch Perm hairstyle, as they were all the rage with Yakuza hard men when he was inside. No one from his crime family meets him outside the prison gates. A young hairstylist botches his blast from the past hairdo, and then to make matters even worse, his old master shoots him in the chest as soon as they are reunited. This has to be the bad days of all bad days. Welcome to Yakuza, Like a Dragon. The ways of the Yakuza has changed greatly during the time that Ichiban was in prison. The well-known faces of the previous games, such as Kazuma Kiryu and Goro Majima, are long gone from Kuromoko, and the place is certainly no longer what it was. With this formerly prosperous area in a sad state of decline, the action moves to Yokohama. Ichiban wakes up wearing just his trousers in a homeless camp after his almost lifeless body is found by scavengers in a pile of rubbish. Finding a blood-splattered banknote in his jacket printed only on one side, and with a bullet hole through it, he sets out on a quest to find out why his boss joined another clan and betrayed him. After making some friends, he gets a job in a Soapland, a brothel like the one he grew up in, and things are going okay until he returns one day to find the manager hanging from the ceiling. When it becomes apparent that suicide was not the cause of death, Ichiban investigates. This soon leads him into conflict with a deadly trio of Yakuza, Triad, and Korean gangsters who all play equal parts in a money counterfeiting scheme with links extending to everyone from politicians and anti-vice organizations to the highest levels of the police. Being a Yakuza game, a labyrinthine plot is expected as standard, and is always delivered by Ryu Ga Gotoku Studio. Doing good deeds for strangers along the way, Ichiban makes friends who drop in and out of the story, helping him and betraying him when he least expects it. As well as lots of fighting, he also finds the time to take over the management of a rundown business in an attempt to become a corporate mastermind in his spare time. This is the first time a Yakuza game has the ability to be played with English dialogue since the original game. Obviously, this is an attempt to make the game more attractive to the Western audience, many of whom are instantly put off by subtitles, and so it should be applauded. Being a fan of the series, I chose to play the game traditionally with the Japanese audio and English subtitles. In terms of gameplay art style, Like a Dragon has pretty much the same look as Yakuza 0 in the previous releases on Xbox. Flashbacks are told using a very different style that looks like very dark matte painting that is very stylish to look at. Cutscenes are also slightly different in style, with a lot of detail being apparent. A man's hair being disturbed by a wrecking ball barely missing his head was a pure joy in slow motion, and the imprint of tape removed from someone's mouth was also nice to be able to spot. The Yokohama location map is huge compared to the Kuromoko map. It must be 3 times the size, and this means a lot more time is spent traveling from place to place than previously. The map is obscured at the start of the game and is revealed as you travel around it. Having been to Yokohama, it was very pleasing to travel to the park as Ichiban and instantly recognize the area. The red brick warehouse where the twice yearly Oktoberfest is held, the landmark tower, and the docked NYK Hikawa Maru, with its name changed, are all where they should be. Exploration is a must as handy locations and items are distributed liberally around the whole area. Taxis can be used to speed this up, but money is hard to come by for a long period at the start of the game, so I tended to just run everywhere. There are the standard food shops to keep you and your party fit and well. A change in this game is that choosing certain combinations of food and drink from the menu gives your party various perks such as extra attack damage or a defense boost for a limited amount of time. Weapons and armor can be purchased from the various weapon shops or upgraded at the Romance Workshop, while the standard pawn shop can be found in the back streets to trade your unwanted gear for cash or better equipment. Crossing the street in previous games has always been a breeze, with polite Japanese drivers stopping to let you cross. Possibly in a nod to real life in Japan, where no one ever illegally jaywalks, cars no longer stop for you except at a proper crossing. I can report that if one hits you, they do a lot of damage, so they are best avoided. They can, however, be useful to throw your enemies under during a street fight. Fighting design is the biggest change that has taken place in the style of the game. Whereas previously your character engaged in the street brawl style of combat involving different fighting styles and environmental objects, this title has gone down the route of JRPG turn-based combat. Fighting in a team of 3 or 4, you take turns to attack the enemy or try to block attacks against you. Different powered-up attacks are available to each character by going to the job center and changing jobs. For example, a chef can fight with whisks and has a powerful attack with a mini blowtorch, whereas an assassin can fight with barbed wire knuckle dusters and has a powerful attack with 2 pistols. Hitting Y at the right time or mashing X can do extra damage if timed correctly on some of the powerful attacks. The hostess character is particularly handy to have in your team, as she can act as a medic and restore health to the whole team with a magic ability. It is worth noting that certain powerful moves stay with you as standard, while others are lost when you change jobs. The longer you remain in one job, the more proficient you become, and your attack, defense, and magic rise proportionately. If after an attack an enemy falls near one of your party and stays on the floor, that nearby ally can get an extra attack in on them. This is handy but does not make up for the lack of environmental attacks Yakuza fans are used to. Characters will automatically kick nearby environmental objects towards the enemy before they attack them, but these are few and far between and rarely do any damage. Various characters met during sub-stories become pound mates. These are powerful allies that can be called upon via mobile phone during difficult battles. Following an amusing cutscene, a perk will be delivered for the party. The perk differs depending on which pound mate is chosen and ranges from a massive damage strike to HP or MP being totally refreshed. In my experience, the best pound mate by far is the hockey mask wearing Jason Voorhees doppelganger, who although expensive to call in, does massive damage to the opposition. There is a focus on heavy machinery fights for some reason in this title. I came up against a Yakuza wielding wrecking ball and a chimpanzee controlling a mechanical digger, as well as others as I fought my way through the game. Boss fights get progressively harder as you would expect. Having a team of 4 on your side really amplifies the amount of damage required to overcome each boss towards the end of the game. While a fan of the beat-em-up style of fighting in the previous games, I was not enamored with the turn-based approach initially, but I must say that after an hour or so I had adopted nicely to it and can now say that I do not mind either style going forward. Personality traits are something else that needs to be worked on during gameplay. Passion, kindness, confidence, charisma, intellect, and style are all pretty low for Ichiban when he gets out of prison, and these need to be raised in order to unlock events and locations during the game. Taking exams on various subjects, fostering relationships with your party, and helping people in sub-stories are some of the ways in which these traits can be raised, although there are many more. Allocating time to do this makes Ichiban a more rounded character, and he becomes far more powerful as the game progresses. Having 3 other characters with you at all times becomes second nature, and taking the time to bond with them, by having a conversation at a bar for example, reaps rewards as they start to gain experience when they are not in the active party and everyone else is leveling up. Swapping a character with lower experience into the active party before a boss battle would not be a winning tactic in this game, believe me. Cash is king as always, as you need to upgrade everything to have a chance of beating the evolving enemies as the game goes on. The best way to get it is by taking part in the myriad of minigames available to you. Carrying out orders for the part-time hero service, generally beating up bullies, is a way to make big money fast, but other games such as collecting cans for recycling on a tricycle, dragon karting, and collecting Tojo clan badges are all fun and worth playing as you get rewarded for it. Karaoke is available as always at the Survive Bar, where longtime fans of the series will recognize the barman. The best minigame takes place at a small cinema. The objective of the game is to keep Ichiban awake during the film while sheep in suits try to lull him to sleep. The sheep pop up in different seats and hitting the correct buttons send them away. They speed up as the film goes on, and they can get quite tricky as the party member bonding rewards gained by staying awake make it very worthwhile. It is worth noting that the lady characters are not impressed if you fall asleep or take them to see the wrong film. A favorite side quest of mine was running hostess clubs in Yakuza 0 or Yakuza Kiwami 2. That is not repeated this time around, but has been replaced by managing a confectionery company. Taking control when the business is nearly bankrupt, you are able to buy properties, hire staff, get dodgy finance, and take part in another form of battle called stockholder meetings. A complete game in itself. This took me a while to work out what I was doing, but it's a great way to earn literally millions of yen to use in the main game. Borrowing heavily from Arthurian legend, our hero comes across a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire, or Excalibur bat if you will, stuck in concrete by the side of the road. Obviously only he can draw it out of the concrete, and this convinces him that he's on a hero's quest. By some strange logic, this means that before combat starts, all enemies morph into creatures that look like something a hero would fight. One big dude was suddenly covered in lube, and seeing him slip over mid-fight was pretty amusing. There's also the matter of Sujimon, where the more you use a Suji Dex on your phone, the more of these morphed villains you fight, and the more rewards you receive from a dubious collector. All of the usual Yakuza tropes can be found in this game. Shirtless fighting, smalchy heart-wrenching music upon completion of sub-stories, ghosts, wild old ladies, and being kind to children. The series has not lost its very Japanese sense of edgy humor with references to flashers, Yakuza who relax by dressing up as babies, and a masochist who feels no pain until his mom tells him off in a dominatrix sub-story called 50 Shades of Play. The game does have its faults, however, such as the dungeon level that made up most of Chapter 6. I was not prepared for over an hour of fighting and went to it with very little in the way of magic points for my team. You can only save when the dungeon is complete, so with the lack of powerful attacks available to me, it became a grind to complete and was not fun. This was partially my fault, but a lack of funds at that stage meant that I could not easily stock up on magic replenishing items. It is supposed to be possible to play the main story in 30 hours, with there being enough peripheral content to last around 100 hours. Unlike previous games in the series, where it was possible to mainline the story without spending too much time on side quests, this game is very different. Having played for 23 hours, I was unable to progress beyond the difficulty spike during the boss battle at the end of Chapter 9, until I had played another 5 hours of general gameplay leveling up my characters and making the money to better equip them defensively. A dodgy save point just before the spike caused me to have to replay another hour as I was just not prepared for what was to come. The end of Chapter 12 had another major difficulty spike. With 44 hours of play under my belt, I was reunited with a character from the past games, which was a nice surprise. Unfortunately, he was an enemy and a level 50 character while I was only up to level 42. After 25 minutes of battle, and after numerous other enemies joining the fight, it became apparent that I could not possibly win, so it was back to a previous save for several hours of grinding towards level 50 myself. In Chapter 15, this was repeated again. Having level 52 characters after 60 hours play, it was still necessary to grind my way to level 60 to be able to complete the underboss. As you can imagine, these spikes can be a bit of a nightmare, especially when you have to fight your way back to the boss at the top of the tower after leveling up your characters. Having played the game on both the Xbox One X and the Series X, it is pleasing to report that the loading times from the menu on the Series X is about a third of what it is on the One X. In fact, the Series X is so fast that the loading screens mid-game disappear before you can read the game tips or story reminders on them. Also, the slight pause before cutscenes that was evident on the One X has completely disappeared on the Series X. In conclusion, if you're a fan of the Yakuza series, this game is for you, although it would also be a great introduction for anyone new to the IP. As is standard for the series, the game does not hold your hand, and some parts have a steep learning curve, but that is all part of the challenge in a Yakuza game. The major design changes to the gameplay have not spoiled the experience, and many hours can be happily spent running around Yokohama. As the one launch title that I was really looking forward to, I have to say that the game delivers everything that I had hoped it would. Will Ichiban go from sleeping on a damp mattress above a Soapland to being the head of a major corporation? Will he ever get a decent, if somewhat unfashionable, Punch Perm? That is down to you. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and subscribe. Also, we have a Patreon, so please check that out if you'd like to help us continue making awesome Xbox content.